All right. I believe we are live and we're going to be talking about, we're going to bring it live on Facebook. We got some interesting things to talk about today. Today, we're going to be talking about a subject that many of us face when we have been having trouble with being in intimate, long-term relationships. That's something that a number of people face is that many times we cannot sustain intimate relationships. What's the problem with why many times I have conflict in my relationships? Why many times I don't seem to be able to stay in relationships long when it comes to like a romantic relationship. Why is it that I find myself getting into arguments and being very disgruntled about friends and loved ones and seeming like I'm often in conflict with others. My goal is to be in intimate relationships that are sustained and that are peaceful and that there's no drama, consistent drama. Being in a relationship romantically where someone values me and sees me as an equal. But time and time again, there is an issue with this. And as a matter of fact, if I take a look down the road just a little bit or up the road at some of the relationships of those in my family, as far as my caregivers, my mother, my father, and even close other loved ones, I'm seeing similar patterns. And what is the cause of this? And so today we're going to be talking about intimacy killers that may be destroying your relationships. I've come to the realization that a lot of times, let's speak about romantic relationships. A lot of times in romantic relationships, we have issues with fidelity, we have issues with trust, and communication concerns, and that disrupts us from being able to have those relationships. But I've also noticed that if there's one thing that I would say that is just as present as anything else, is how do you handle yourself when you get into conflict? How do you respond when conflict occurs? So I'm going to ask a couple of questions because the way that some of us are communicating and responding in conflict situations is the reason why we're single, reason why we're in dysfunctional marriages and relationships, the reason why we're in relationship with friends and loved ones where we are not having things reciprocated. A lot of it has to do actually with us. Okay, so there's a lot being done wrong many times with the people that we're attracting. But in order to get the healing, we have to be able to discover what is it within me that also needs to change. Am I bringing energy to the table? And so I have a couple questions for you. How do you respond when you do not get your way? In a relationship, I just want to talk to you. How do you respond when you do not get your way? Now, this is not going to apply to everyone, but to those who it applies to, I want you to listen up because this is going to be helpful for you to become functional. I've seen it work. I coach and I counsel and I see it works. And these are important tools. How do you respond when you do not get your way? Some of us really just don't have an ability to respond in a positive way when we don't get what we want. Some of us become passive aggressive. So I accepted what you did, but you're going to pay for it some other way. Some of us, like maybe somebody, may have done something that you didn't like. And so then when they try to speak to you, you act like you didn't hear them. You ignore them. It may be responsibilities, things that need to be done around the house. You're throwing pots and pans and things like that. Okay. Um, Passive aggressiveness. And we're going to talk about where that comes from and some of the things we need to look at to resolve that, right? Um, some of us just don't say anything at all. So when something does not go our way, we pretty much shut down. There's silence. We just shut down. And this, my friend, does not resolve the relationship, but it's a cue and a clue that maybe I have some deficits in understanding how to communicate effectively when I don't get my way. This is not something that uh, we should be shameful about. We have to recognize we only get what was provided to us. So the tools likely that you're using are the tools that you've been taught. Okay. And the people who taught you the tools, that was the best that they knew. But as we continue on, we want to have more functional lives. Let me go. I got a lot to cover. Some of us will get petty. Some of us will be very aggressive, yelling, hitting, even throwing stuff. So you've got passive aggressive and then you got very aggressive. You got people who are silent and don't say anything. All of these are dysfunctional. How about when the person you're with and we're trying to resolve a problem, you don't get your way, you're just talking all over them. You don't give them the opportunity to say what they want to say because you're talking over them. Relationship intimacy killers. If you know that already you're checking off for some of these this is a major reason why we're not in functional relationships, okay? Because it is that I may not be the total problem because again, I'm attracting something that's not good. So we got to work through that and you get that in coaching, but then also there's some things that I'm carrying as well, okay? So another question, when a conflict occurs, how good are you at conflict resolution? And we're talking about conflict resolution with family members, with friends, with loved ones, with your spouse or partner. Do you often have difficulty with getting on the same page? And now this is the thing, some of you all will posture as if you're on the same page, but then we get the passive aggressiveness. Were you really on the same page, or were you, in a sense, just trying to keep the peace? Well, sometimes some of you, and I talk to you all the time, some of you, the idea of keeping the peace is causing you a lot of inner harm. Physically, emotionally, if you look at a lot of the research that's out, we talked about this, a lot of autoimmune diseases because many times the woman is taking on the pain of the whole entire family because many times us as men don't really understand how to properly handle you because of our own deficits and our own lack of having those models that's needed to lift you up and to help you out with some of the responsibilities, to tell you like, hey, you can just rest. I'm going to take over this and do it for you. We don't know. And so a lot of times there's impact. Okay. There's impact with that. But some of us, when we're with family, loved ones, even our spouse and partners, we really have a tough time with conflict resolution. Being silent and not expressing what's really on your mind in a in an appropriate way is not the way to handle conflict. How about this? When someone makes you upset, how long does it take you to get over it? This is a pretty serious one. Like if somebody pisses you off, how long is it taking you? So we're trying to test out how emotionally regulated you are. Because having a lack of emotional regulation, I'm recognizing that if you're emotionally dysregulated, it's very hard for you to be in intimate relationships. I'm telling you because this stuff happened even to me in the past. And I was raised around a lot of people where this was just commonplace. So this is what we get. So just help yourself to understand, and we'll talk about this in a second, but get yourself to understand that if it's been around you, it's a part of you. If it's been around you and you're registered, if you signed up for this, then that's telling you something right here. You signed up for a no more people pleasing, a codependency group. So that's telling you this has impacted me. Okay. So we want to talk about what do we do about it? So, how long does it take you to get over stuff? If it's taking me a long time, that means I'm dysregulated. There's something that needs to be corrected. And this comes from experiences, negative experiences, right? a lot of times this is coming from unresolved traumas that we have experienced. And when we're seeing them again through a different party, a different person, a different scenario, same type of vibe or situation, it's bringing that back up for you. So then we get dysregulated because guess what? We didn't understand and learn how to regulate ourselves when it first occurred. We weren't allowed to do that. Okay. So is it taking you a few minutes? Is it taking you a day? Is it taking you weeks, months, or years to settle down if someone upsets you? If any of these you're checking off for, you need to consider getting some support right away because this is key to your healing. Okay. So, do you hold grudges? How about this? Do you give the silent treatment? We talked about this a little bit already. Are you giving the silent treatment? You don't say anything. Do you? I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you, but I don't know if you ever had somebody get really upset with you. And some of you all may do it yourself and they give you what's called the death stare. So that means they're staring you directly in your eye like they're pissed off and want to kill you. They're not blinking. They're just giving you the death stare because they don't like something that you did. All you death staring people, that's toxic. We have got to get some support and what you're actually bringing because a lot of times you're attracting dysfunctional people. But guess what? Think about this. If you attract somebody functional, will they want to be around this mess? It's got to be cleaned up. They're not going to want to be around that. Okay, so this is something that we've got to give attention to. That death stare is if some of y'all don't know about it, it's a cold, intense stare, and the object of it is that you're showing hostility, a stare of hostility, and it's meant to intimidate the person that you're talking to. Okay. Silent treatment. We talked about that in stonewalling. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on when we do this. So let's just say that one of our intimacy barriers is that we become dysregulated and then we hold grudges or resentment. We're holding on to hurts and things from the past. We're replaying this repeatedly in our minds, the sounds and images, even the sensory of what happened keeps replaying in our minds. And each time it replays in our minds, it takes us back to that moment of disappointment, of abandonment, of trauma, of disrespect. And guess what? Instead of working that situation out, what do? We let the situation sit there and fester and build up all in our gut. And so we're talking about autoimmune as well, right? So this is why I've got all this pain in my body. This is why I can't sleep at night because I'm festering and holding on. And this creates distance in relationships. We've got to get rid of these grudges. And the Bible speaks about how we are to forgive of wrongs. We talk about, okay, I don't want to get too far off track. So why are we doing this? Why are we holding grudges and resentment in this way? Well, a lot of times, the thing is if we're feeling wrong, if we're feeling that somebody wronged us, then a lot of times we feel that holding on to this grudge will protect will protect us from being hurt again. So if I hold on to this grudge, it protects me. This is what the mind's telling me. It protects me from being hurt again. And so sometimes that's the case. This is the reason why we do it. And sometimes we just haven't processed emotions from the past. Like I was talking about earlier, things have happened to you and you just let it go past. You haven't dealt with it. You haven't put words to it. You haven't put an emotion to it. We're talking about some time ago about someone saying, okay, my dad was not in my life. That did not affect me. Okay, that's a lie from the devil. It did affect you. You just may not know about it, but one way that I can tell that it's affected you because of how things are playing out in your relationships when it comes to abandonment, because that person abandoned you. They abandoned you. And so when we get that sentiment that something like that is reemerging, then we get these dysregulated reactions. Black and white thinking. So we're viewing relationships in extremes. It leaves little room for error or mistakes. Some of you all are thinking of people as all good or all bad. As a matter of fact, when you think about them as all good, sometimes they can't ever do wrong. Okay, because you have them placed up somewhere where only God should be. I know what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna leave that there, right? And then sometimes we make people all good and then just don't give them room for mistakes or errors because they need to be doing things on the standard that we do. So there's very little room for error with friends. And so then we find ourselves having issues in relationships time and time again. So why is it that we do this? Sometimes it's easier to put people into good or bad categories rather than what? Deal with the complexity of the relationship. If I take them off of the good category, I've got to deal with the fact that you hurt me. You made me feel like I was nothing. You treated me like I was some type of prostitute or something. That's how I felt like. You treated me like I wasn't even a human being. You demeaned me. You didn't respect me. You didn't show up for me. You left me abandoned. I had my car messed up. You wouldn't even come out and see me. You left me and your kids in compromising places, and it's like you didn't even give a dang. Okay? You molested me. You allowed me to be molested. You allowed for it to happen over your under your watch, and then you put it in my lap. How about that? So these are the things. If it's hitting with you, this is what's breaking us up in relationships. We cannot be regulated. We cannot act like people, the person that we want to be when it comes to conflict. Why? Because we've got a lot of stuff bundled up. A lot of stuff bundled up, and I'm gonna keep it at that. Okay. Um, and so lastly, we lack self-awareness. We often lack self-awareness. Um, and so what's happening is that have you ever wondered about why you continuously lose friends? Why you can't hold on to relationships? Why we can't hold on to friends and romantic relationships and things like that? Have you ever thought about that? Well, maybe your intense style, your intense way of emoting is a key factor. You're very intense when it comes to situations, when it comes to disagreements. You have a very strong will. Okay, you have high expectations for perfection when it comes to other people. Sometimes when it comes to the lover, there's no expectation. When it comes to friends and other loved ones, even our children, many times there's a high expectation. And for many of us, it just feels like bad energy. You're not pleasant. Okay, we're not putting ourselves to oh, there's something badly wrong with us, but we're trying to understand why is it that I have been responding this way. It's some things that need to be shaken up. It's some things that need to be healed. Maybe if I admit to being wrong, it feels like an attack on my self-worth. So the trauma has got you so focused on your own emotional state that you cannot see and empathize what's going on with somebody else. That even comes when it comes time to draw a boundary. Somebody says, "Look, give me time to process what's going on." So I'm getting so anxious that I'm about to lose you that I just start calling and I don't even give that person time and an ability to process their own reaction of pain or disappointment or whatever it is that they need to process that they have asked me to draw a boundary for. I cross that boundary out of my anxiety and fear of losing them, fear that I've done something wrong, and then I take no accountability for it because I don't want to really face uncomfortable truths about me. Now, I know this is a hard word today, but it's something that we need to hear. If you're in this category, there is help available. Okay. So, somewhere you learn that it's not safe to express your emotions. We really never learned how to put very difficult, harsh emotions into words. And again, this is why the body is impacted. This is why I feel pain. This is why I have the gastro. A lot of my anxiety clients have issues in the gut. Okay, the whole digestive system is screwed up, right? Some of you all know what I'm talking about, right? And some of us are in pain constantly. Some of us cannot sleep. It's because we have not been in a situation where we have learned to process our words, and we have not allowed for ourselves to be placed with individuals that would hear what we have to say. So what you're going to need is definitely to heal is self-awareness. We're going to need coping strategies. We're going to need communication skills. We're going to need, I don't want to cut you out, but we're going to need to learn how to forgive and let go. So that means all resentments are out the door. All right, we got to wrap it up. We will be back on next week. I hope this has been helpful. If you need some support, give us a shout out and we'll get to you if you're ready to make that change. Otherwise, take some of these tools and apply them to life. Don't beat yourself up. Just learn about yourself. Have compassion and understanding. The thing that you sought for your whole life.